Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to do some prints with our die cutting machine. This is a Frugal Friday video, which means we're going to be using what we have to get a little bit more bang for our buck. So I did some experimenting here, and I've done this a long time ago, and a viewer, or maybe even several viewers, asked me how you could use your die cut machine like a printing press. So I thought this would be a great Frugal Friday type of video. So first I'm going to show you what didn't work. I thought I would, and I remember years ago doing this with watercolor crayons and then working with damp paper and then cranking it through my die cutter machine. I got this beautiful debossed image, but I tried it a few times that way and I just kept getting tearing. But you can kind of see some of the watercolor crayon doodles, but unfortunately I got that paper tearing. So then I experimented with just using gouache right on my acrylic block, unsanded, so it was shining like that. And that worked pretty good. So that gave me some, and this just took a couple seconds to paint on there. It gave me some encouragement. And so I kept playing with that idea. Now I realized that you got to crank it through once. Don't go back and forth. You got to work quickly once you put the paint on there, or you got to go stir that paint back up with a wet brush. And the paper I'm using is this letterpress paper that I got on clearance many years ago. I know a lot of you guys pick some of this up too, but this paper is not as good as the printmaking paper I used in the past, and I think that's why I was getting that that tearing out here. And the reason I wanted to show this technique is I think it's going to work better with the paper that you have. Go for a thick paper because you need a paper that's going to kind of squish in to, like, really squish up against the plate. So like a thick, I would go with like a just kind of like a softer thick paper, like a smoother watercolor paper, or just something that feels kind of like thick. I think a thick cardstock probably would work all right, but something that can take a little bit of moisture. And then I just had fun, just like basically painting color on. I think on this one, one of these I smushed, I like spritzed the block to, you know, try to clean up some extra stuff. The thing I realized with this is that you're not going to really get a second generation print very well. Second generation prints, like misting it with water and going through again, there's really not that much left. This is going to take most everything off the block. You do get a really nice little indent though on the paper, which looks good. These would be cute, I think, on note cards. This one I did dots, and then because there was some leftover paint on the block, and I just dabbed some dots and gave it a spritz. And I think I spritzed it, then I dabbed on some dots, and when I went through it, like the dots all smeared, but I like the way it looked, and I like the tactileness of that little debossed area. This I think might have been, okay, no, this was a second generation. I don't remember. I think this was a second generation too, where you just misted what was left to clean off the block. But I mean, these aren't anything to write home about, but they were fun, and I'm going to show you how to do this, because maybe it'll inspire you and you'll want to take the idea further and you'll do some really fantastic things. I personally will pull out my gel plate when I want to do some printmaking because I find that much more interesting and fun and less of a big ordeal because I don't have to bring a machine out. But if you don't have a gel plate or you just want to give this a try, here it is. I'm going to show you how. So I'm just going to set this scratch paper down on my table, and I'm just going to put my block on it. Now, I don't think it matters if you sand the block or not for this technique, but I did sand it because I was experimenting. And I'm just going to work on that side because it won't shine onto the camera. So if you're not getting a result with a shiny piece of plexiglass, that's all this is just leftover plexiglass, because I cut my own picture frame, so I always have like bits of plexiglass leftovers that I can use. You could use a stamp block as well. The key is, and we'll get to it when we go do our printing, is that you just need to use your platforms or plates or shims, whatever you have. You just need to make sure you're getting pressure on your printing plate. And we'll go over that in a bit. But, you know, you could use a stamp block. You just use fewer, like you wouldn't use your platform. You'd use a different amount of shims. We want some paint brushes. And I'm going to use my artsy gouache paint. This is, this iteration is discontinued. It did just come out with a set of 56, and I will link that down below. I did get it into review, but I haven't tried it yet, and honestly that palette is humongous and I wouldn't have room for it on my table with my die cutter. So I'm going to use this. I've been using this for a couple of years, and actually I just sprayed and stirred it after I did all those prints because I figured I'd have them all ready to go. So honestly, you can do whatever type of pattern you want. I'll zoom in a little bit. Just remind me to zoom back out when we get to, well, you probably want to see the paint too, right? Let's just zoom out a little bit here. Yeah, remind me to zoom back in. But I want you to be able to see it all. Sorry about the camera wiggle. This is like hooked to my ceiling, and I don't know. It likes to boogie woogie on me, I guess. I'm just gonna get some colors I think will look nice together. Let's start off, this is pretty, this kind of like Naples yellow. I'm just gonna, you don't want too thick, but you want to stay wet. So if you have to dip your brush, then go for it. I've got a little pot of water here. I'm gonna rinse my brush between colors. If you feel like the paint is thick and is like drying out too much on you, you can go back in and kind of like, oh, that see, this a little thick. I'm gonna go in there with a little water. You don't want to have too much paint. You don't want to have too much water. It's you'll probably waste a few pieces of paper while you're getting the feel of it, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. Practice on some cheap paper if you need to, but you do want something that's thick enough that you'll get a bit of a smush. I'm just making a design. Let's see, what else would be pretty? You can mix your colors. I got a little palette over here. I think I'll make some pink, so I'll grab some white and grab a little bit of that. Fuchsia there. Add a little more water to that because it's mixing of the stuff underneath. We'll add some of that in there. The trickiest thing is holding it still. You know what? You probably take a jelly plate and actually put it down to hold your work still while you're working on it. That would kind of defeat the purpose of, you know, because probably doing this because you don't have a jelly plate. See, in a jelly plate, the reason you don't need to press with a jelly plate is because it has so much squish on it. It's kind of like a rubber stamp. So that's why you can do printmaking without a press with a jelly plate. So I don't know if that was clear. I've not done that much printmaking. I've done gelatin printmaking. I've done this type of mono printing. You can also, like, if you don't have a die cutting machine, I'll tell you that. I'll explain it when we get to the printing time. But you can do this with just like a plastic spoon, and I'll explain how you don't have to have a die cutter. It's just if you have one, it's real quick and easy. I think I want a little bit of orange. I might take, I think I'll take actually a little bit of this and mix it with this nice sherbet color. Oops, that's a bad thing about the jelly gouache. It's really easy to contaminate your color. Actually, it's not, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I like this peach. Now hopefully, oh, I'm getting a cool kind of blend. I'm just saying, hopefully this is all still moist enough to print. Now, I'm not a printmaker either, so this is just kind of just a fun little thought experiment. Use up your supplies type of experiment. Now let's see here. If you feel, I don't like to, you can mist it, but I gotta say, misting can be, it's really easy to go overboard. Well, you know what, I think if you have a really fine mister and you hold it like, okay, so this is, I'm gonna hold this way back. So this is my, let's zoom out. Whoops, good Lord. We're gonna this back, way back. I'm like, what am I, about 18 inches away? Okay. Yeah, you don't want to do too much. It's so easy to do too much. Now you need a piece of paper. I'm just going to grab this because they're all pre-cut. This letterpress paper I have over here. I hope I'm working quick enough. I was working really quick before, but man, doing this in one spot is tricky. All right, so I'm just going to pull this through. I can like feel the paint drying on this as I'm doing it. So I got my Big Shot, and I've got the platform with the tabs with tab 1 in. I've got one of my plates here. I'm going to put my paper down. I'm not sure if it's got a front or a back. Doesn't really matter. It seems to work both ways. I'm hoping that hasn't dried on me. I'm gonna set that down. That's pretty and springy though, isn't it? And center it up as good as you can. You can trim it or tear the edges or whatever. I'm going to put this down on top and I'm going to crank it through. In fact, I'll bring it forward a little bit so you can see. So you want to feel resistance, but I don't have to like, you know, I'm still able to comfortably crank it through. I'm feeling a little bit of resistance, but I'm not like, I don't have to like, you know, be a muscle man to crank that through, okay? So it should feel like you're putting a die through. Now, hopefully that was wet enough. I'm not sure if it was. Now, if you don't have a die cut machine and you want to do this, what you would do is you take like the back of a spoon and you would rub it over the back to put a lot of pressure down. So hopefully it's not going to stick. It was sticking a little bit. I was too slow. It was sticking a little bit. That's still kind of cute. Now, I do have a lot left on this, so I am going to do a ghost print. So I'm going to give it more water than I did before and see how that works. It's a lot of experimenting, guys. That's kind of a reason why I kind of hesitated to do this, but I'm like, what the heck? I'm going to play with this idea and we'll see. I'm just going to plop it on this side over here. Try to keep your fingers clean as you're doing this so you have nice white edges. I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I might just like write thank you notes on the back. Because I was thinking I could make a card with this, but I don't know. I don't feel really inspired to do that, so... Am I cranking it? Oh, there we go. I forgot how to use it. And if you don't have enough pressure, you can use like strips of cardstock to get you the pressure that you need. Now, since we're using gouache, cleanup is really easy. All you have to do is just, you know, wipe it off with a wet towel. That one's a little bit better, actually. I like that. I think it's kind of pretty. So for cleaning up, I'm just going to spray it. I'm going to put it on there just to save the mess a little bit. Actually, I do this in a tray generally. And then just wipe it with a rag. I got a wet rag here because I was just washing these off in the sink. I generally will hand wash my really painty rags because I don't want the stuff to get onto my other laundry. And there we go. And then you're ready for your next masterpiece. So, I mean, this is honestly, I gotta be honest, this is probably as far as this idea is gonna go with me. You can embellish these if you want to. Like, if I'm like, I really wish there was, this color went all the way to the, because you can kind of see the embossed edges. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Can you see that? It's like an embossed edge. I mean, like, I could just go in with some water, because it is gouache, and I could, like, push some of that color out to the edge if I wanted to. Or I could even print over it again. But... you know, you can play with it. You can leave it the way it is. You can spread the color around. It's, you know, it's whatever you want to do. But I just wanted to share that quick idea in case it's something that you might want to try in your crafting. It's just another way to use your die cut machine. But like I said, for me, I would just use my gel plate. But there you have it. Basically what you need is a block, piece of plexiglass. You need pressure, that's your die cut machine that you're using as a printing press. You need a paper that is, that's got a little bit of squish to it. And yeah, you need some sort of medium, like you could use acrylic, you could use watercolor, you could use anything really. You just got to get that balance of how wet it can be. Now, the way I'd done it in the past, and I used Beeves ReFK, which does seem to be a little bit more of a longer fibered and more robust paper. And what I did then was I soaked it in water, and then I would take the paper out, I'd blot it, and then I would put it on the plate. But I would let my paint dry first, and there was enough moisture between the moisture on the paper and the pressure of the die cutter, I would be able to transfer it. But with this paper, it wasn't working, and I didn't have any more of the Reeves printmaking paper, so I used what I had. And I figured if you guys are home with cardstock and more like, you know, crafty papers, that this method would work a little bit better. So I hope you found that useful for Frugal Friday, and good luck, happy printing, and until next time, happy crafting.